ChatGPT said. Rylan had been walking through the wreckage for almost an hour, and the silence of the battlefield felt heavier than the smoke in the air. The explosion that brought down the alien escape pod had shaken the ground a few minutes earlier, and now everything around him smelled like burnt metal and hot dust. He was a human engineer, not a soldier. But he knew how to check ruins for survivors. His hands were steady, even when the world was not. The sky above him was dark, purple, a color caused by the dust clouds after the battle. Small sparks still jumped from broken wires sticking out of rocks, and cracked armor pieces lay scattered everywhere. Rylan walked carefully between the debris, holding a small scanner. The scanner blinked now and then, telling him something alive was close. At first, he thought it was a mistake. Nothing alive should still be here. But the blinking grew stronger, faster, brighter. He followed the signal until he saw the escape pod, half buried under rubble. It was not large, maybe only the size of a small car, and its curved shell had deep cracks running like black lightning. Strange blue liquid dripped down the side, glowing faintly in the dim light. Rylan approached slowly. He knew alien tech could be dangerous when damaged. He pressed his hand against the pod's surface to check the temperature, and it was warm. Too warm. Like something inside was overheating. He leaned in closer and heard it. A faint sound. Soft. Weak. Almost like a child crying. Rylan didn't think. He reacted. He pushed against the bent metal, trying to open the hatch. The first attempt failed. The second made the metal creak. The third caused the hatch to snap open with a sharp crack, and a puff of cold vapor rushed out. Inside the pod, curled in the corner, was the smallest alien he had ever seen. She was tiny, barely 2 feet tall, with pale silver skin and glowing lines that ran across her arms and legs like living tattoos. Her eyes were large, bright lavender, and filled with fear. She wore a thin, cracked life support shell around her torso, and every time she breathed, small sparks came from it. The alien girl looked at Rylan with shock, then relief, then panic all at once. You... Rylan nodded slowly. I'm not here to hurt you. Her glowing patterns flickered weakly, almost going dark. She pushed herself forward, struggling to keep her head lifted. You must help, she said urgently. My stabilizer. It is broken. Only your kind can fix it. Rylan frowned. Your stabilizer? What does it need? Rylan. What does it need? She took a shaky breath. Her shell flickered again, and her voice cracked. Inside, there is a slot on my shell. A key must go in. But only a human hand can fit the emergency key. It was made for your size, your shape. Her words came fast. Desperate. Rylan reached inside the pod and carefully lifted her into his arms. She was light, lighter than any child, but her body felt warm, like she was overheating. She pointed one small hand toward a compartment on the side of the pod. In there. Rylan opened the compartment. Inside, he found a strange metal device shaped like a long oval, glowing faint blue. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The heat coming from it made him flinch. What is this? He asked. The stabilizer key, she said. If it is not put inside the slot in my shell, I will not survive. My energy will break apart. Rylan swallowed hard. The device looked dangerous. The outer layer had fractures and unstable glow. If he mishandled it, it could explode or burn him. He looked at her small face. She was shaking now, her eyes losing focus. He made his choice. Rylan took off his gloves, letting his skin feel the temperature of the stabilizer key directly. It was hot, but not unbearable. He turned back to the alien girl. Where does it go? He asked calmly. She lifted a trembling finger and pointed to the center of her cracked life shell. There was a small opening, barely big enough for his hand. You are the only one who fits, she said, her voice breaking. Please, put it in me. Now. Her words were desperate, innocent, and full of fear. Rylan understood she meant the stabilizer key. Nothing more. He knelt down with her, resting in his lap. He held the key with both hands and slowly guided it toward the slot. As he got closer, her glowing patterns reacted, lighting up faintly. "Careful," she whispered. "If you push too fast, it will shock both of us." Rylan nodded. He could feel her tiny fingers clench lightly against his arm. He moved slowly, steady, patient. He worked with delicate machines all the time. This was no different, just a life instead of metal. When the stabilizer key touched the slot, it vibrated. The slot opened wider, and a small surge of blue energy sparked out. Rylan didn't flinch. He kept going. The alien girl gasped, not in pain, but in sudden relief. "Yes. Like that. Slowly," she said. Rylan pushed the key halfway in. A sudden burst of energy shot through his fingers, like static electricity but stronger. His arm twitched, but he held firm. "It's okay," he said softly. "I've got you." Her eyes widened a little. No one had ever spoken to her like that, calm, gentle, warm. He pushed the last part of the key inside. The stabilizer clicked into place, with a low hum. For a second, nothing happened. Then her entire life shell lit up with soft blue light, steady and smooth. The cracks in the shell glowed as if repairs were happening from inside. Her breathing became stable. The shaking in her limbs stopped. The alien girl let out a long, weak gasp of relief. Rylan lowered her carefully onto the cleanest piece of ground he could find. She lay there, breathing slowly, her eyes half closed, but peaceful. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded. "You saved my life." Her voice was small but clear. The glow on her skin looked brighter now, more alive. Rylan leaned back against a broken metal piece, letting himself breathe too. "What's your name?" he asked. She blinked slowly. "Sira. I'm Rylan." She looked up at him with curiosity and a small smile. "Rylan, humans are not what the stories say." He smiled back. "And what do the stories say?" "That you are too large, too loud, too reckless." She paused. "But you are gentle." Rylan chuckled softly. "We're not all the same." Sira tried to sit up, but winced. Rylan helped her, placing a hand behind her back. Her tiny body leaned against his arm. "Is the stabilizer going to keep working?" he asked. She looked down at the soft glow in her shell. "For now. But it is damaged. It created a link when you inserted it." Rylan raised an eyebrow. "A link?" "Yes," she said quietly. "Your energy and mine are joined for one cycle one day. If you get hurt, the stabilizer will pull power from me. If I panic, it will send shockwaves to you." He stared at her. "So we're stuck together?" She nodded. "For 24 of your hours." Rylan sighed. "Well, better than leaving you to die." Sira's expression softened. "Why do you help? You owe me nothing." Rylan looked around at the wreckage, the sky, the broken battlefield. "Because if we stop helping each other, everything out here will fall apart." Sira lowered her head. "My people. They would not have saved a stranger like this." "And you?" he asked gently. She hesitated. "I thought I would die alone, but you came." He felt her trembling again, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He lifted her carefully once more. "We need to get somewhere safe. Rest first, answers later." She nodded against his chest, but as Rylan stood up, he heard something in the distance. A distant whir, a faint rumble, a harsh metallic call. Sira's eyes widened in terror. "No," she whispered. "They followed me." "Who?" "The hunters. They destroyed my ship." Rylan looked out over the horizon. Dark shapes were moving toward them. Sira clutched his shirt weakly. Rylan, if they take me, the link will kill you too. He tightened his grip around her. Then they're not taking you. Sira's small eyes shined with shock and hope. Rylan stepped back, scanning the area. Already planning. Already thinking. He had saved her once. He would do it again, even if the whole world was coming their way. Rylan carried Sira through the wreckage, each step heavy, with the sound of distant engines closing in. The hunters were coming fast, too fast for comfort, and he knew the shattered battlefield offered almost no shelter. Smoke curled up from piles of metal, broken weapons, and pieces of alien ships. The wind carried the smell of burnt plastic and sharp chemicals. It was not a place for anyone to rest, especially someone as fragile as the tiny alien girl in his arms. Sira's glowing lines flickered weakly every few seconds. The stabilizer key inside her cracked shell hummed softly, linking her energy to Rylan's. Each time her energy dipped, Rylan felt a light pressure in his chest, like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. "We need cover," he murmured. Sira nodded, her small voice barely audible. "My pod. It has a secondary chamber. It is hidden underneath. We can use it." Rylan moved quickly, weaving through half-destroyed structures, until the twisted shape of her escape pod came into view again. He knelt beside the broken hull and placed Sira down gently. "Where is it?" he asked. Sira lifted a trembling hand and pointed to a section near the bottom. Rylan brushed away the rubble and found a small hatch, half-melted shut. With his tools, he pried it open. A narrow passage led downward into a dim compartment. "Go inside," he said. Sira hesitated, looking up at him with worried eyes. "If the hunters scan the area, they will feel my energy. They will know." Rylan understood. The stabilizer link made hiding harder, not easier. "Does the chamber block scanning?" he asked. "Only if you repair the shield panel. It is broken." Of course it was broken. Everything here was broken. "Show me," Rylan said. Sira crawled inside slowly, wincing as her shell clicked softly with each movement. Rylan followed her into the cramped chamber. He almost had to crouch to fit. She sat comfortably in one corner, her tiny form barely taking any space. The shield panel hung from the ceiling like a loose metal sheet, sparks appearing whenever it touched the wall. Rylan reached up to examine it. "This is easy," he said, relief washing over him. "Just a broken circuit." He removed a few connectors from his tool belt, working quickly. Sira watched him with wide eyes, admiring the calm way he handled the dangerous device. "Humans fix things differently," she said quietly. "How does your kind do it?" he asked, without looking up. "We sing to the metal." Rylan paused. "You sing to it?" Sira nodded. "It responds to frequency. But I am too weak now." Rylan smiled slightly. "Well, I don't sing, but I can do this." He tightened one last connector, and the shield panel sparked once before turning dark. A second later, a soft blue ripple passed over the walls. "Shield is up," Rylan said. "They will have trouble finding us now." Sira let out a small breath, a sign of relief. But the moment was short. Outside, the engines grew louder. The ground trembled slightly. Sira's entire body stiffened. "They are here." Rylan moved to the small window where cracks in the hull let him see outside. Dark shapes, 3 of them touched down on the ground. Their forms were long, thin, metallic, and dangerous. Hunters. Their armor gleamed with silver plates, and each had 2 staff-like weapons that pulsed with red light. They walked with sharp movements, sniffing the air, scanning the ground. One of them leaned near the broken pod, its voice clicking like metal scraping metal. "They are close," Sira whispered. Rylan pulled back. "They're searching by sound, movement, energy, everything." Sira grabbed his arm with her tiny hand. "If they capture me, The stabilizer link will drain all your energy. You will die before they even take me away. Rylan met her worried eyes. Then I guess I'm not letting them take you. Sira looked shocked. Her glowing lines brightened a little. Why do you keep saying that? Because it's true, he answered simply. Outside, one hunter slammed a staff into the ground. A pulse of energy traveled across the field. The chamber shook violently. Sira gasped, and Rylan felt a shock run through his body. Her fear was affecting him through the stabilizer link. Sira, he said softly, you need to calm down. I'm trying, she said, trembling. But they destroyed my family. My crew. I can't. Rylan placed his hand gently over hers. You're not alone now. Breathe. Her glowing patterns steadied, dimming and brightening in slow rhythm. The shock inside Rylan's chest faded. The hunters outside moved again. One of them leaned closer to the cracked hatch. Its staff glowed brighter. They are about to break in, Sira whispered. They won't get the chance, Rylan said. He looked around the chamber. There wasn't much here besides old equipment and broken panels. But Rylan was used to making something out of nothing. He found a small power cell, dead but still structurally stable. Then he grabbed wires from the overhead panel and twisted them together. What are you doing? Sira asked. Setting a distraction. He connected the wires to the cell, twisted them into a loose loop, and placed the rig near the far corner. If they open the hatch, this thing will spark like crazy, he said. They'll think it's you. Sira blinked. But won't they know when they don't sense my energy? Rylan smiled. That's why we'll leave before it goes off. Sira tilted her head. Leave? To where? There's a gap in the side panel, he said. Small, but big enough for you. I'll follow. She looked scared. Outside. With them there? She. We'll go through the smoke line, Rylan explained. They can't see well in it. Well, we know. Sira nodded slowly. She trusted him now, more than she expected to trust any large, loud human. Rylan lifted her again. Her body was warm, and her shell hummed gently against his chest. He crawled to the side panel, found the loose metal plate, and pushed it outward. Cold air rushed in. Outside, the smoke from a damaged ship drifted thick like fog, hiding shapes and movement. Stay low, he whispered. Sira pressed close against him, breathing softly. They slipped out of the hidden chamber and into the smoke. Rylan kept his head down, moving slowly, step by step. Behind them, the hunters approached the hatch. Metal scraped. Sparks flew. A loud bang sounded as the panel finally gave way. A second later, Rylan's trap went off. The power cell erupted in loud crackling, throwing sparks everywhere. Hunters jumped back, clicking angrily. Run, Rylan whispered. He moved through the smoke, careful not to breathe too deeply. Sira clung to his shirt, her tiny fingers gripping tight. Even through fear, she stayed quiet and focused. They reached a slope of broken metal. At the top stood a large fragment of a downed ship, tilted on its side, forming an arch where they could hide. Rylan ducked inside with Sira. The space was narrow, but safe. He sat down slowly, placing her beside him. We made it, he said. Sira leaned back, her energy stabilizing. You outsmarted them. For now. But why do you help so much? She asked softly. My people would not risk this. For a stranger. Rylan looked at her small, glowing form. Her fear, her innocence, her trust. It all touched something inside him. Because you asked for help, he said simply. Sometimes that's enough. Sira stared at him for a long moment. Then her eyes softened. You are not what I expected, she murmured. Suddenly, The stabilizer key in her shell vibrated sharply. "What was that?" he asked. Sira clutched her chest. "The stabilizer. It is rebuilding. It has absorbed the shock from earlier. The link between us is stronger now." Rylan felt it too, a strange connection, like a thread tying their hearts together. When she breathed fast, he felt a flutter in his chest. When she calmed down, he felt warmth spread through his body. "We need to break this link," Rylan said, worried. Sira nodded. "At sunrise. The stabilizer cycle ends. Then. So we just survive the night?" "Yes. But that is not easy." Before Rylan could ask why, the arch above them shook. Dust fell. A hunter's metallic foot landed right outside their hiding place. Sira froze. The glow on her skin dimmed to almost nothing. Rylan wrapped his arm around her, shielding her tiny body. The hunter scanned the area. Standing so close their breaths could almost bounce off its metal back. Sira's fear rushed into Rylan through the stabilizer link, nearly making him shake. He held her tighter. "Stay with me," he whispered. "I won't let them take you." Sira hid her face against him, trusting him completely now. After what felt like forever, the hunter moved away. The moment it left, Sira exhaled shakily. "Rylan, you would risk your life again for me?" He placed a hand gently on her back. "I told you. You're not alone." Sira looked up at him, tiny, fragile, glowing faintly, and for the first time since the crash, she smiled. Not a relieved smile, not a forced smile, a real one. "You are a good human," she said softly. Rylan didn't answer. He just brushed dust from her shell. But outside, the hunters regrouped. They were angrier, smarter. And now they had a new plan. The night was far from over.